All right, it's 3:02. I'll go ahead and get started with our webinar today. Thank you so much for joining us today for the second of 5 Crash Responder Safety Week All-State Planning webinars hosted by the Federal Highway Administration Office of Operations Traffic Incident Management Program. The Crash Responder Safety Week initiative is brought to you by the FHWA Office of Operations, and it recognizes all traffic incident management response communities. As a quick reminder, at NOCO, we offer a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. So you can go to NOCO's website, which is transportationops.org, to browse through links for TISMO resources and news. Previous webinar recordings and case studies can be accessed from there as well. Now I'll just cover a few logistics for today's webinar. We're recording this webinar and the recording will be available on NOCO's website. All the attendees are encouraged to stay engaged by using the Q&A feature for questions and the chat feature for comments. So if you look, they're both in the bottom of your screen. So just make sure that you're familiar with those. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of all presentations. So if you have any questions, we encourage you to enter them in the Q&A area as they come to your mind at any time. Now, one very important note for this specific webinar, participants will have the opportunity to participate in an open forum during an audience listening session or a roll call, and this will happen right after Q&A. So you'll be able to unmute yourself. You just have to use the raise hand feature. So it's also at the bottom of your screen. So make sure you find that feature there when you'd like to be unmuted. And then you receive a message from Zoom, and the message will need you to accept the unmute prompt. And then after, when it's your turn, I'll just say your name and then ask you to unmute yourself. So raise hand, accept the unmute prompt. And then when it's your turn, I'll let you unmute yourself and I'll say your name. After you're done, just lower the hand feature and we'll be good to go. Also, as always, please feel free to enter your name and agency in the chat and say hello to your peers. Now here, next, I just have a standard USDOT FHWA disclaimer that reinforces product names may be used during the webinar, but the US government does not endorse any product. Additionally, views and opinions expressed in this presentation are the presenters only and do not necessarily reflect those of FHWA. The host for today's webinar, Crash Responder Safety Week All-State Planning Call, is Joe Tebow from the FHWA Office of Operations Team Program Office. So now I'll hand it over to Joe.
Thank you, Lauren. Joe Tebow here. I know most of you. I was just perusing through the attendance list there. Welcome. Thanks for all you do. Before I forget, I also want to thank the good folks at NOCO. For sponsoring this and for all the hard work that they do in the name of traffic incident management. Next. Briefly today, I'm going to give you a little background on CRSW. And before I do that, I also welcome you on behalf of my colleagues, Paul Joden and Jim Ostrich. Both are predisposed. They won't be here today nor attending, although Paul might pop in later, knowing Paul. However, welcome on behalf of the entire team. So we're going to move into some of the practices, and we have some really great folks with us today that are doing some incredible things, and we want you to hear what they're doing, and if there's ideas to be shared, that's what this is all about. To move forward, change it up a little bit each year if we can. And so we're going to hear from some great speakers. We'll have the Q&A with the presenters towards the end, and then we'll talk about the 2023 theme for Crash Responder Safety Week, and talk about that just a little bit. And then we're going to have the state level activities, the roll call, if you would, not state by state, but we're going to ask that, as Luann said, raise your hand, let us know what's going on. If you got something, new and improved and good stuff going, please feel free to share it with us, or just enter your comments in the chat pod, if you would. And so state the next CRSW planning webinar. We'll talk about that briefly, and let's get on with the show there. Next slide, please. So as I stated, right, this webinar is for the TIM teams and the TIM response communities. It's our opportunity for Crash Responder Safety Week to get our message out. right? Not just the response communities, but the public information officers. We get everyone that we possibly can engaged in sharing our message of how critical, how important this is. And it works, right? We do know that, people do heed a lot of the warnings, especially when they see it everywhere. And I know some of you are putting it everywhere, and it's really great stuff, both electronically and fixed messages. And they'll share some of that with you. And our purpose is, to, as you see, right, to coordinate, facilitate, right, and improve your crash responder safety week plans, and provide you with, resources, if you would, to help you along. And now's the time for a lot of those things to start happening, because it'll be upon us real fast, right? Next slide. So we have every discipline at every level engaged with us. The criticality, and we didn't list them in particular order, right? But it gives the EMS world, an opportunity to engage a little more because of NRSS and post crash care. So we look forward to enhancing some of that activity. But we target different levels. And, from the national, from the state, regional, local, tribal, we try to engage everyone and every organization to participate and try new things. All right. So, we can affect that change out there in the public, and make them more aware of the risks that responders take about 16,000 times a day. Think about that, right? About 6 million crashes a year, about 16,000 times a day. So it's critical information, and it's our time to shine. Next, please. So in the first webinar, we covered and talked about, two very important things, right? The governor's proclamations and the executive video message from your organization. And as Jim says, Paul knows. And I failed to acknowledge Vishali Shaw, who's on with us, our outstanding contractor, and she knows, right, that when it comes to governor's proclamations, we really want to see that increase and try to get, as she said, about 50% or more engaged. But for those of us that have been through it, we know it can be a time-consuming task. So now's the time to start if that's the route that you want to take, and we highly encourage you to do that. So you see the other the 12 items listed there, the suggestions. Next slide, please. And what we're going to talk about this webinar are mass training events, public mass media events, rest area messaging, and the old catch-all other. And we want to hear about the, some of the other things, that you're engaging in. Next slide, please. So at this point, we want to bring in our guests here, and we got Michael Washburn and Sean Kenny, and want to get them to pop their cameras on. And Michael's worked with Florida's Turnpike for over 25 years in public information, TMC ops, emergency ops, incident management. So he's with Jacobs Engineering and oversees the Turnpike's safety service patrol program and its specialty towing contracts. And Sean Kinney, welcome. Thank you too. He's the TIM program manager for FDOT, and previously served as a domestic security manager in FDOT's emergency management office. Also, the FDOT TIM and Road Ranger program manager. And Sean's been instrumental in the modernization of the TIM program in Florida, development of information, sharing applications, technological changes for future compatibility. These folks have it going on, as do all of our speakers today. So with that said, I'd like to bring you guys on, and next slide to set them up, and welcome folks. We appreciate, really eager to hear what you got to say.
Well, thanks, Joe. I thank you for the praise. Some of it is probably well-deserved. Others we'll try to live up to throughout the course of the presentation. Got a lot going on in Florida like everyone else. Traffic incident management is one of those categories, one of those callings, if you will, that puts you in a lot of different arenas. You can see from this list of items that we have in our plan for Crash Responder Safety Week this year. One of our labors of love is the governor's proclamation. We'll be starting on that shortly. I guess probably one of the most challenging parts, and other states probably sympathize with this, is you have multiple layers of leadership working on some of the same stuff simultaneously and trying to coordinate that. And one of the things that Joe alluded to for this webinar, the mass training events, each district has its own training cadre, and they'll be working to put on training sessions over the course of that week and coordinate with us so we can get the word out, which kind of leads into that public or mass media event, working with our communications team here in central office to make sure that the public is aware, that the response agencies are aware, and that our leadership is also aware so they can kind of cheerlead at various events. This will include tours within the district, outreach opportunities, which kind of carries over to the motoring public that'll be going through the area during that week, kind of leading up to, during, and as we move through to the next week. Messaging in our rest areas, which Mike will cover a little bit more of that with regard to the service plazas and the facilities that he manages as part of the Turnpike enterprise. Next slide, please. Here's a copy of, or a photo of our proclamation from last year. It took a really, really long time. And if you want to hear a word of advice from an older fella, don't wait to the last minute to start this. Start as soon as you can, be as accurate and timely with it, because the governor has a lot of stuff going on, and we are a very small piece of what they do in their day-to-day. So get started early and often. And here's some photos that'll be included, and Mike can go into probably a little bit more since those are the Turnpike crew down there in the lower left. And I'll hand it off to Mike.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate it. We can go ahead to the next slide. I really want to give Sean a lot of credit. He's pretty modest, is that his effort at the central office level and getting that proclamation is really a key part. It really creates an umbrella for the rest of Florida's Turnpike and all the DOT districts to do all the rest of the things that we're able to do throughout the course of that week. We're able to point back to that proclamation, and it really brings the agencies together. Going to jump right into it. One of the items that we talk about and we do each year, and it's really a staple of what we do, is our service plaza and gas pump video displays. In our service plazas along the Turnpike, we have video displays that are running kind of looped PowerPoints, and each month is usually a theme. The Crash Responder Safety Week takes over the content of those displays, and we have multiple graphics, multiple messaging for just that special week. And we really then take advantage of our gas pumps at the gas stations of those 8 service plazas. We really treat that video display where we have 2 30-second videos that we can share on a constant loop. And we use those as a kind of a captive audience. People are pumping gas. You're looking around, you watch those videos for the discounts and the coupons, and then you're seeing our PSAs for Crash Responder Safety Week. And we really use that as a kind of a call to action of what we want our drivers and our customers to do. And I'm going to go to the next slide, and we're going to play one of those videos that we put on those gas pumps.
As a driver, you are part of the team that ensures incident responders stay safe. Imagine a car passing at high speed inches away from you at work. That driver could have moved over, but did not. Don't be the reason a responder does not get home safely. We need you on our team. Move over and slow down for responders on the shoulder.
Great, thank you.
As
You go to the next slide. I'll just finish up on that tasking. I'm sorry, you can go back, please. There we go. Is that we have about 300,000 motorists that are getting gas each month on our service plazas. So we really see that as a great opportunity to push our messaging and, again, what they can do to help. Multi-agency incident training. We had done this in the past. I do not think we're going to be doing it this year at this point, but because this is something that does take probably our longest, for at least 4 to 5 months out. We're talking about all of our partners from tow, fire rescue, Florida Highway Patrol, and our road rangers. And really, it was a multi-agency training where we did a demo of a crash and all the recovery. And it's really something that is very effective. It's a great media event with so much to offer for the visual and photographs. And we had great success in this when getting the word out. We had more than a dozen media clips from this. And if it's possible, I highly encourage it. But it is very important that you have partner agencies with a champion in each of those disciplines that can then come to bi-weekly meetings in preparation of this. The details are very key, as you can imagine, putting together a recovery demonstration. And it's something that is very effective, but does take a lot of coordination and going forward on that. Persistence is key. If you have a good partners lined up and you have champions that are as passionate as probably everybody on this call, it's a great effective tool. Next, please. This is just what Sean mentioned. We work on the Turnpike and all of our DOT districts with training sessions scheduled for that week. We have done it across the board, either on same days or adjacent days of the week. And it's key. This is pretty much, we're able to put that out as long as you identify your trainers and the resources and locations, and then get at least good 2 months of head time for it to be put on people's schedule. And this is a constant. We will be doing this year. We all want to keep pushing our numbers of trained responders. And it's something that we'll be also doing this year. Next, please. This is a quick shot of our District 6 down in South Florida when they put theirs together, and bringing in video conference. A lot of times we're challenged by our locations, but video conference for that training with your on-site trainer can be done, and that's something that they've shown the way with. Next, please. The service plaza, again, we're really fortunate on the Turnpike is we have these 8 service plazas where we can put together events, outreach events, and for face-to-face contact with our drivers. This is from last year event that we timed for Crash Responder Safety Week. We also teamed up with the Florida Highway Patrol, and you can see that this is from our Orlando service plaza. We're out there for about a 4 to 5 hour period and had great information displays that we were able to provide. We go next, please. Key to any event that we have outreach is including our road rangers and road rangers and trooper vehicles outside the facility are great attention getters, especially with kids that go right to it, bring their parents. And key here too for outreach events is freebies. It has something free that you can hand them with that move over, slow down logo. And that is something that we will be pursuing this year. This takes a lot of coordination with your public information office. 3 months out is where we try to begin with them and get it on their schedule, because they are the key to getting press releases out and press alerts out along with the Florida Highway Patrol. So something that we will be doing this year. Next, please. And this, again, Sean alluded to this, all of our districts throughout Florida during Crash Responder Safety Week pretty much make their TMCs available for tours and media interviews. They then also, it's key to get a champion and someone who's comfortable in front of the camera to push the messaging. But that goes very well with the next slide, please, which is the social media coverage. Public Information Office will help coordinate those interviews. And then after the interviews, you get a lot of exponential coverage as the media themselves start using social media for their coverage of the event. So it's a great something that again we'll be working with the PIA office going forward here for the next 3 months. Next, please. And of course, our DMS messaging. Again, we take the lead from Sean and Central Office for a statewide custom messaging that we will be doing. All the districts will be using that, and we will be putting those forth again this year with line hopefully with the theme that we'll be talking about in a few minutes as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, thanks the guys, Sean, Mike, Florida rock stars. I've been a captive audience numerous times at the gas pump, and that's a great that's a great opportunity to if your stations have that ability, your filling stations have that ability to utilize that technology. I mean, that's just great stuff. And I would imagine that sometime in the near future, EV charging stations may also have that capability. So, hey, we have some things to look forward to expand our message. So next slide, please. So we go from Florida to Texas, and we have two more heavy hitters, powerhouses in the traffic incident management world. Get Dave and Nicole to pop your cameras on for us, if you would. I'll bring David McDonald in first. With Texas DOT, statewide TIM program manager, leads Texas TIM outreach and program coordination across 13 different TIM teams in the state. Dave began working with TxDOT about 5 years ago after completing a 25-year career with the Austin, Texas Police Department. And along with David is Nicole Tyler, traffic safety specialist with Texas Department of Transportation, Childress District, and I'm from Baltimore, so we say it the way we see it. and will soon be joining David as the TxDOT TIM coordinator. She's a recipient of the Texas Transportation Commission's 2022 Grid Award for creation of the district's first ever traffic incident management team. So folks, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing your good message and good news. Next slide, please. And I don't see cameras.
So mine shows to be on.
Oh, you're back. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So
and there's Nicole. Hey, there we go. Take it away, folks.
Thank you, Joe. Hopefully we can live up to the hype. I do want to recognize that we did just double our team. We just hired Nicole, so now it's not one, it's two. She's not officially on board yet. She'll be starting August 1st, but definitely happy to have her on board to start sharing some of the responsibilities in our small state of Texas. So we can go to the next slide. So as Joe mentioned, we do have several established TIM teams. When you look at number 2, Childress and then Cottle, those are smaller areas there in our panhandle. And Nicole was instrumental in getting those started. And she actually did this in addition to her regular job and responsibilities as a TSS, which is a traffic safety specialist for our organization. But she's very passionate about this. Her and her husband both are responders. I believe her husband is police, fire, and EMS qualified. So you can imagine they're very passionate about this and trying to keep our responders safe as well. We did leave off one TIM team, so I actually have 14. There is a Northeast San Antonio TIM team, so I apologize for that omission. And they've been meeting roughly for about 1.5 years now, and was actually able to get them established even during COVID, when a lot of people were not meeting in person. So we go to the next slide. So we've done quite a few mass training events, if you will, in Texas, up in the Fort Worth area, the Austin area. and then some other conferences, but training is really what we push out because we know that has a really great impact. Even when you get those old timers that attend your training, just giving them a refresher and they can kind of break that. Sometimes we get complacent because we've been doing it so long and nothing's happened. So just bringing that sense of awareness back and breaking that sense of complacency. When we look at those big training exercises or even a tabletop or train the trainer, you have to start early in planning these because there's so much that goes into that with all the training materials, getting a location that can host everyone, getting the hosting location so they can actually report the training and just other things that administrative things that have to be done. So for the trainers, it's generally about a 6-month process, and we do try to spread those out around our state. For the 4-hour training, you don't need as much time for those. We can do those in about a month and a half. And again, we try to spread those out all around the state. And when we look at how it's delivered, we were, I believe, the first state to go to virtual training during the pandemic because the training is actually required in both police academies and fire academies. And they were still having academies, and so they needed trainers. And so we had to find a way to bring that training to them. And so we did go virtual. But folks, as soon as it was over, because there's less accountability, if you will, when you're doing virtual, we really wanted to get that personal interaction again, and it works better because you do get more participation from the students. So we're doing everything in person once again, whether it's a train the trainer or the 4-hour session. And I've already mentioned that it's required for police and firefighters, as well as Nicole's been instrumental. Texas actually has an EMS grant that they manage, and so any agencies, training agencies or counties that receive funds from TxDOT, they are for EMS, they're required to get the training as well. So we're making some good strides here, and I think you see whenever those training reports come out, how effective it's been in helping us get folks trained. As far as the outreach, I mean, that's really a two-way communication. We actually get more requests for training than what we actually advertise. Again, I've been one person for a very long time, and we do have other instructors around the state that can put on classes, but unfortunately, they're really doing that more for their specific academies. But because it's mandatory for police and fire, we are the point of contact for those agencies, and so that's generally how we're contacted. And so, lessons for others, just start early. The more time you got, the more successful it's going to be. We've used some things for Crash Responder Safety Week over the last few years. We actually started in 2020 using what's called a victim impact video. So either a responder or a family member that lost a responder from them being struck, working an incident. And you can actually reuse those year after year because the message never gets old. It's always the same, and we want to keep our folks safe. And it really does pull at people's heartstrings. And it just helps communicate that message. And the way we're able to do that is we engaged our PIOs. Those are your experts. So if you're not using your PIOs, you have to engage those. Not everyone's going to be willing to do it, but find that champion who wants to come on board and is really passionate about this, and they will get others involved. And it makes for you to have a more successful program. So we can go to the next slide. So we've really grown what we've been able to do over the last few years. I don't even know if Texas did anything for Crash Responder Safety Week prior to them creating a 10 position. In 2018, I think we did a little bit of messaging on the CMS, we actually call them DMS here in Texas. And now that is a mainstay for our program, and it is statewide. But other things that we're working on this year, so we've already started communicating with our state law enforcement agency. They're on board with the governor's proclamation, and they want to have like a team event to launch that and to bring awareness for that, and just to highlight that activity. Executive video message, that is definitely a maybe, but it's something we will be working towards. And the social media campaign, those victim impact videos, you can play those, people can click on those. And so we do have a large outreach there. We actually have a Train the Trainer scheduled during that week. It's going to be just outside of Houston, and that's November 14th and 15th, apologies. And then also the Fort Worth District is holding a TIM conference there in their area on that Friday, which is, I think, about a 4-hour event. And they hope to have some Curtis Trow, safety service Trow vehicles there and some other things for people to look at. We do have our own TIM web page as well. It's a page within our internal TxDOT site, and we'll have some stuff there. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce you folks to Nicole Tyler, who's coming on board effective August 1st, but it's also on this call today to talk about some of these other activities that we have. Nicole?
Thank you, David. So you can see the rest of the list. We are going to do some rest area messaging and some other things. And so if you'd go to the next slide, please. So the rest area messaging is what we call traffic tabloids. In the past, they were called toilet tabloids, but that is the basis of it. We hang them around all of the restroom areas. And rest areas, traffic information centers, travel information centers, gas stations, and then popular businesses, some that we've partnered with are Starbucks and McDonald's. And so we send these out to our partners via email and they hang them up for us and send us pictures. And so we'll be promoting Move Over, Slow Down during that week on campaigns in various restrooms all around the state of Texas. And then as you can see on the right side of the screen, we also have the Move Over, Slow Down, He's My Dad, She's My Mom, posters that we disseminate out to all responders, and they can get them and take pictures with their family. And then they're able to share those with us to put on our TxDOT sites. They're able to share them on their own agency social media sites and kind of just give it the human aspect and flooding social media with these people are real and they have families. And so we share these, of course, to media and agencies and PIOs and newspapers and news stations. And so we do all of these fun things. One that I didn't have a picture of, and I apologize for, is we do campaigns with our tow companies where they hang banners up or come to different areas and talk about Move Over, Slow Down, because their trucks are really large. And so it makes a good point when they're looking at lines and how little room they actually have when they're working. So, David, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Nicole. Joe, that is it for Texas. We'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Outstanding, folks. Great stuff. I kind of favor the toilet tabloid, you know, that's where I come in, you know, that tells you where I'm at, right? Because it's another captive audience, if you would, right? And it gets the message across. So, you know, Texas doing great things. David, Nicole, you know, thank you so much, you know, for all that you do, for sharing your information. And folks, you know, I didn't mention it as of yet, but it's time, you know, questions pop up in your head, right? And down at the bottom of your screen there, there's a Q&A button. You know, go ahead and pop them in there. Try not to wait till the end, because sometimes I'll do that and I'll totally forget my question or forget to ask it. But, you know, go ahead and use that button down there. Give me the next slide, please. And for now, we're going to move from Texas to Pennsylvania. And our good friend and champion Todd Lease. Todd's over 20 years of service with Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. Currently is traffic incident and emergency management supervisor, and serves as deputy director of training for the Emergency Responder Safety Institute. He's a former volunteer firefighter, EMT, and hazmat tech. And I'll ad lib on this and say that's very modest. That's a very modest bio, right? Because no matter where I go in this country, right, coast to coast, border to border, if I'm talking to someone about traffic incident management, sooner or later that conversation, Todd Lease pops up, right? So, you know, Todd, you're a superstar in what you do. We greatly appreciate your efforts. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, pal.
Does it start off with a few cuss words, Joe, before they do that? Yeah. So yeah. I'm Todd Lease. I'm supervisor with the Traffic Incident Emergency Management section of the Turnpike. I am retiring in less than a day, so I will be retiring, but I will still be very, very, very active in what I do. Just going for some personal reasons, looking to retire and take my retirement and go work someplace else. So my new job starts on Monday. So I'm taking Friday off for a change. So that's something. So go ahead, next slide. So again, how we're using some crash responder data and some information on what we're trying to do out here as well. So we want to focus on a little bit of different things. It was great that David and Mike and everybody and Sean and Nicole shared some information. But how else can we engage people? One of the ways we're engaging people. Go ahead with the next slide a while. We want to talk about some of the many things that we do here and where we're going to focus on. We may get the governor's proclamation done. We had an employee that was hoping we push that through that left the turnpike. So that's pretty much a more of a challenge and a heavy lift. And as many of the others speakers and presenters have mentioned, that it's a challenge here for to push these through, or it's not an easy process necessarily to get the governor proclamation taken care of. So we're working on that. We will be able to get the executive video messages done. Our leadership at the Turnpike are great and can really do some great stuff off the cuff. I like what David mentioned about the victim impact statements, and we plan to do that as well. We share them out quite a little bit about sharing those messages. So we use some of those, and we have some of the information from our Move Over Summit that we held back in May. So we have some of those videos that we plan on sharing as well on social media, and we could give you the access to those as well. One of the things I'd like to try to do this year during that week too, is take it from the other approach of and have somebody that's been involved that was the person that was involved in striking a responder and killing a responder, and having them tell their story about how it's impacted, obviously the responder and the responder's family, but how it's impacted him and his family. And I have somebody lined up to do that. So we'll be working to get that out there, and we'll keep everybody posted on that. We may be able to share that at a national level with anybody that's interested in having that story be told. The person that we have in mind that I've talked to about this is a over 20 years experience with the local police department, and just happened to last year he driving distracted, drifted off the side of the roadway, struck a responder and killed a responder. So it would definitely be a different change to telling a story, but I think that will be something that we need to do. We're going to play our changeable message signs. We'll put up a message and focus on the slow down, move over, distracted driving messages, and try to make sure everybody's staying safe for the responders. We try to do a very active social media campaign. Our great partners at DVRPC, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, and partners on the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission usually do a very good job during the week to share out messages and do some social media campaigns. So we're going to also follow that. We're looking to do some training, and what that training is going to be right now is it's still in the works. We're starting to develop, or we've ran a couple of pilot classes of a unified incident command class that we're doing, that we use a virtual reality program that's being developed. That was a partnership between the Pennsylvania Turnpike and our Penn Time program, the Eastern Transportation Coalition, and Jacobs Engineering. And so that's ready to go. We've done a couple classes from them, and it's a really interesting class, because you bring multidisciplinary responders together in the room and have some great conversations. And it's not all, you have some disagreements. You have some butting heads at the scene between what one agency would do and what other agencies do, but that's where you need to have them. You need to have them in the classroom before you get out there on the side of the roadway to do that. We'll update our websites, and we'll make sure that all our websites are updated and share that message out there, and focus on the different messages, daily messages that we got there. We'll put out press releases as well, and we use the resources that Dr. Hardesty, you posted some stuff from responder safety, and again, I serve as their deputy director of training in a volunteer role. So there's a lot of good resources there, in addition to the federal highway resources there. We have very, very good videos there in your boots that focus on some responders. Joe Crowbooth, whose father was struck and killed. Michael Cox, who's one of the Lionville firefighters that was that had 9 responders that were hit, and David Good was killed at that incident. Bob Bemis is one, and also Brad Hughes from Virginia is interviewed for those. So those are very, very good stories as well to share out. So one of the things I want to talk about it too is how do we reach the public? So it has down there, the public trying to do that. We will try to do that. We won't be doing a big event this year. I think Mike mentioned, that takes a lot of effort. We are currently working to get our Penn Start facility, which is going to be a training facility for our emergency responders, stood up. We may do some training at that doing the facility at that week, but we're in the early stages. We're finally moving forward with this. It's been in the works since 2016, and they want to have some in-person training this year, but we'll work on doing that as well. We'll do rest area messaging. That's a pretty good thing that we could get that message out there through signs, through our travel boards at the plazas, and we'll make sure all our plazas are playing that as well. We may try to also utilize some respondersafety.com resources, Emergency Responder Safety Institute, and see if we can get some of the service plaza staff with some of the people there to share those messages. So we have a good partnership with them. DMV messaging is a challenge for us. We want to be able to get out there and share some messages, but sometimes for that and for the driver's education, it takes a little bit more effort. The one thing I want to focus on is the move over enforcement campaign. We have a enhanced move over law. We're one of the states that also under the law you have to move over for a passenger vehicle or a commercial vehicle that's disabled on the side of the road with its 4 ways on and one additional warning device. So I think doing this week, we're going to try to really enforce and really try to get the message across about what the law in Pennsylvania specifically said. As we know, we have 50 different states plus District of Columbia, Puerto Rico that participate in this, and there's 50 different messages. So we want to make sure that our residents, our customers that are traveling through Pennsylvania, our motorists, understand what the move over law in Pennsylvania says, and they follow that. I did a right to know request. We got all our stats from 2018 until February 28th of this year. So we're going to share that information out and show people the number of citations that have been written during those years and also the dispositions so that we can share that out. So that has a really good impact both for our responders that see that, because a lot of times we get complaints that nobody's enforcing the move over law, and I can show them, yes, they're being enforced with about a 98% guilty disposition to those based on the numbers being broke down. So I can share that information with anybody that wants that as well. And the public, the move over campaign also works out. If any of you have Beasley Media that's in your state, Beasley Media has done a great job in partnering with us to share a move over PSA message. When we first, John DeWeese, he was able to get contact with Laura Lewis from Beasley Media Philadelphia to agree to put some messages out there and for me to participate in the public affairs program. They did put that message out there on their 16 radio stations in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware market. It's been very effective. So we have them refer to our pentime.org and also to njtim.org, since we're dealing with both states. But don't be afraid to reach out to some of your radio stations, see if they can put messages up. But also we were able to get Lamar Media to do that as well, to put some message up on the billboard. So that works very well. Next slide. Finally, this is where it all starts. This is our Traffic Operations Center, our TOC. That's in High Spire that covers all 567 miles of the turnpike. And, we want to make sure that they're being able to have all the equipment to make sure that our responders all go home safe at the end of the day. So, Joe, that's all I got.
Well, Todd, that's a lot. And on behalf of the FHWA team, we give you a heartfelt thanks for all you've done, and whoever's coming in behind you out there has got some big boots to fill. We wish you the best in your new venture, and I'm pretty sure we'll be hearing from you again in not too long a time. So thanks, Todd. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Next slide, please. There we go. So we go from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. Next up is Robert Pomacala. Robert's a retired New Jersey State Police Lieutenant with 30 years of law enforcement experience. Majority responding to roadway incidents. He was regional incident management coordinator with the State Police Incident Management Unit. Robert's passionate about the safety of all first responders and is currently serving as the New Jersey TIM statewide training coordinator through the New Jersey Institute of Technology. So welcome, Robert. We really look forward to what you had to share with us, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
You're good. Okay. All right, Joe. Thanks. I want to thank you for letting me follow Todd Lease. That's some pretty big shoes to fill. I've become pretty friendly with Todd, and I wish him well also. Next slide, please. So during our Crash Responder Safety Week, these are some of the partners we reach out to. These are not all of them. These are some of the major statewide partners that come to our statewide meetings twice a year and help us collaborate and kind of guide our program for the state. Next slide. Just some of the topics we're working on this year. We want to trying to get some news segments on some local television and radio channels. Mass training. We're going to have a public safety announcement. We're going to announce about the mass training and hopefully get the media involved. Rest stops. We're looking into some billboards. We do have billboards, which I'll talk about later, that are along our Garden State Parkway that are electronic, that will run our message for the whole week, both north and south. Some other public events, and I'll talk about some of the other creative outreach that we've done in the past, but has continued throughout the summer driving season and pretty much continued every year. We just kept it going. Next slide, please. So some of the news segments for TV and radio, as Todd said, we're thankful to have them help spread the message over some of the radio stations. This year, what we're going to try to do is we found out that our Division of Highway Traffic Safety, which is run by the Attorney General's office, sponsors our local, our New Jersey radio station's weather desk, weather and traffic desk. So we're going to reach out through our PIO, who have been very helpful both in the state police and in the DOT, to help us kind of accomplish this mission and hopefully get another message onto that radio station throughout the week. Next slide. And then these are some of New Jersey 101.5 is the name of the radio station. Unfortunately, they're not on here, but they're all affiliated in some way or another. Next slide. So we plan on doing, we've lacked in this before, as far as we've run a couple TIM classes, but we really have started this year to try to get some more trainers to help spread the message. We've made the classes a little bit smaller and really try to pre-interview the people first, if you will, to find some dedicated personnel to come take these classes. So we're going to hold the first one that we ever did, a train the trainer for our state, and we're going to do it Monday, the first day of Crash Responder Safety Week, with a challenge to have them either have a class at their agency, hold a class, or to schedule another class by the end of the year. And we'll make it fun. We have some giveaways that our regional incident management teams give out when we go to meetings and some of the trainings. And we'll come up with some kind of little care package that we can give them, because everybody likes a little bit of competition. And but we'll challenge them to actually have a class. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry.
It has been said that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And the better prepared and trained you are, the higher the chances everyone will make it home safe every night. All first responders should participate in traffic incident management training. It could save a life. In this case, that life may be your own.
One of the best ways to ensure traffic and first responder safety is to clear minor incidents from traffic lanes as quickly as possible. Minor crashes and disabled vehicles should be moved from the roadway as soon as possible to a safe area adjacent to the travel lanes.
Since 2014, every graduating trooper from the New Jersey State Police Academy has received the nationally recognized traffic incident management training, and it is currently being offered to every trooper who has not yet had it. Additionally, these federally funded traffic incident management classes are available to all first responders in all disciplines, free of charge, to help ensure that they can do their jobs and get home safely. During National Traffic Incident Management Week, we want to raise awareness about the dangers our first responders face each and every day on our roadways during traffic incidents. So please take advantage of this training by visiting njtin.org.
So this video was done a few years ago. We've done several afterwards with the director of the DOT and also the director of highway traffic safety, who is now has changed now. So we'll probably do a new one this year and look to have PIO push that out through certain other media outlets. Next slide. So the billboard on the left, it's at our PNC Arts Center. It's on the New Jersey Garden State Parkway. It's pretty big. I'm not sure the exact size, but you can see the message is clear both north and south, and that's a major corridor to the shore points from the northern part of the state. The other two are just like I believe it was Florida and Texas. We will run these in a continuous loop inside the rest areas. Unfortunately, in our state, we cannot fuel our own vehicles, so we have a gas station attendant, so we cannot utilize that option. Next slide. This was some of the public events that we do. This was after Crash Responder Safety Week. What we try to do and take Crash Responder Safety Week and do what we call a spring push or a summer driving season, and usually do it around the Memorial Day holiday weekend, just to remind drivers of the same thing we do during Crash Responder Safety Week. But also it seems to become, and as everybody knows, traffic is, everybody's in vacation mode, just to remind them of what the laws are and the importance of the first responders on the roadside. Next slide. Some of the things we use to pass the message along. A few years ago, we came up with the concept of the slow down, move over bumper sticker, just more of an awareness. We try to brand all of our posters and all of our electronic materials with this. So when somebody sees it on the back of a police car, fire truck, tow truck, it can spark a little bit of conversation with someone as to what it means, or it's at least it's branding when they see that message on the electronic billboard or they see it in the rest area. It's just acts as a reminder. Next slide. So I'm kind of proud of this one. We have the governor's proclamation. We have it every year. We have a contact at the governor's office that all we have to do is just give them the dates for the following year, but it's already been kind of like the unwritten rule that we will get it every single year. So we don't have a lot of hoops to jump through as some states do. An executive video message. Yes, we're currently working on something. The changeable message signs. The maybes are the public or mass media event. We'll see how that goes. It's not out of the works, but there are some challenges with some of the personnel involved. The DMV messaging, that's something we're actively working on, not necessarily for Crash Responder Safety Week, but just for all the time. The driver's education, the move over, slow down is in the handbook, but there's I've spoken with some of the other experts throughout the state, and we do not feel that it's enough. It doesn't really drive the message home about the slow down, move over law in our state. So that's just something that we'll work on it. I don't know if it's going to be during Crash Responder Safety Week, but we're going to work on getting that done. Next slide. I gotta apologize for the picture because when they asked for a headshot, this is my last headshot, is when I retired in 2017. So I don't really look like that anymore. I don't wear a uniform, I wear a different hat. But because I know so many PIO people in the DOT, I'm gonna have to get them to take another picture of me. If anybody has any questions, please reach out. As Todd said, we're collaborative with this. We want to help you. We've gotten many of these ideas from other states, and that's what this is all about. Just like you would be on the side of the road at a crash scene, you want to work together. Joe, thank you.
Outstanding, Robert. I tell you, lots of great stuff, right? Institutionalization for law enforcement with traffic incident management. Something we strive for. And I tell you, a little side note, I own 2 historic fire engines, or an engine and a truck. I'm very picky as to what goes on those 2 pieces of equipment, right? But I can tell you, there's one of these on my engine and my truck, right? Because it's the message, right? And I like what you're doing. Because of the law of recency, right? You tend to remember most what you learned last and what you saw last. So yeah, that's really great stuff, Robert. I greatly appreciate it. We all appreciate what you do out there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next slide. And here we are. It's time. And once again, if you have a question, I'd like to get our presenters pop on their video, and we're going to go ahead and field some questions that you may have. You feel free to use the Q&A button down at the bottom. We'd be more than happy to address those questions there. To kick it off, I'll go ahead and throw the first one out there if y'all don't mind. And I'm going to ask you, have you had any difficulty with getting attention from your PIO at your agencies, your public information officers? And if you did, how did you encourage them to become one of the champions of CRSW?
So Joe, I can answer that first.
Thank you.
When I first started, I guess it was about 5 years ago, we had in the DOT, there was about a change of 3 within about 6 months of PIO people. So we just didn't have the longevity. So as soon as you got to the first one, yeah, that's a great idea, we'd love to help you, somebody else came in. And then some of the people that were working for that person were all on board, but then the new person comes in and, it takes 6 months or so for them to settle in and get to find out what's going on. So it was a challenge at the beginning. We kept through it. We kept at it. Luckily, most of the people that actually do the work, not necessarily the head or the chairperson, or if you will, the actual boots on the ground were all on board. So when we did finally we have Jim Barry now, who is 100% on board. Our commissioner is on board. So it's not hard anymore, but it was a challenge in the beginning. Just keep at it.
Any other suggestions or tricks of the trade, right, to get your PIO built into your program and getting the message out?
Hey, Joe, one thing
Sure.
just that we went through and working with Sean is knowing your PIO's chain of command as well. It's one thing, we have regional districts, but we go to our PIO regionally, but they're also going up to our central office as well, just as I work with Sean and under his program. And so it was realizing their chain of command as well, and that approval process that they will need to go through. So recognizing how they work was key, and keeping the names of those champions that know the reason why we're doing this.
Outstanding. Yeah.
And follow up. Knowing, you don't assume that because you talked to one and they understood and gave you a north-south that everybody in the food chain knows, because we are one of many people that they're dealing with, and our message gets lost in the stack. So keep following up to keep at the top of their stack, so it doesn't get lost in the background.
Absolutely. Yeah, great advice. And we see on the national level, one thing that's consistent, that is there's always changes, right? And we're seeing a lot of folks who, were Tim champions for quite a while, finally moving on, or it's time to kick back and relax and retire. And leads me to the next question that I have for you, and that would be, have any of you folks like put down your crash responder safety week activities and like a roadmap so that you have something there for the next person who comes along behind you to champion Tim for us? Anything in writing or anything like that?
Joe, I think you have to do that with the whole program. So definitely, when I was discussing some stuff with some of my hopefully successors and people that are coming up that are interested in the position, I'm trying to tell them, it's like there's resources out there, so make sure you find the resources that you need. You don't have to do everything yourself. You could make sure, Mike, whenever I took this position back in 2015, you were one of the first people I reached out to, and you helped me with some information. So it's been good, and that's what traffic incident management is about: building connections, and it's about talking to Sean and Dave and Bobby. I've been to all their places, and we've shared a lot of information together. So it's use your resources.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Good information. I'll toss one more out there, right? And it's in general, but just how do you keep your crash responder safety week message fresh each year? Right? Is it something like this, right, where we're sharing information, see who's doing what, and what moves do you make, right, to keep it fresh and keep it so that it pops, to those who see it. Any suggestions for those who might be struggling with how to keep it fresh?
Joe, since I don't mind talking, I'll talk again. I think for any of our states, I mean, we've all probably had struck bys that we could think of off the top of our heads that have occurred. So personalize it and make it a local issue or a regional issue or state issue. And it's not just about struck by fatalities or injuries we have. What's the and Joe, you and I have had that conversation. What happens when you have an engine that's struck and now that's a $750,000 piece of apparatus that's going to be out of service for 5 years because it takes that long to build one. Now I'm going to use a used piece or a one out of reserve that's we replace anyway. So I think you have to share those messages and try to get the public to understand that it's I think all of us at some times have had somebody ask us how many responders have been struck, and when we give a number, that number doesn't sound high, but it's one's too many, and you need to have those personalized stories of survivors or of their families because that sells it, and you want that family to be emotional to get the message out because it's just like we talked about. How do we get that message out, and how do we get the public to care? So I think that's a huge thing there. Yeah,
that's a great point, Todd, and that is once again, of course, it's the human factor. Always plays a part in the message, but we take if you're fortunate enough, blessed enough not to have any responders injured or struck, but you've had equipment damaged, capitalize on that, right? Get those photos and get some numbers, right? It's all right. The data thing, right? Collect your data, build your business case as you would in anything else, and say, hey, look, we lost, X amount of pieces of equipment this year because of inattentive drivers or whatever the case may be, and capitalize on it in any way. Yeah, good point. Good point.
So Jim, I can add to that. I think it was, forgive me, but I believe it was Texas that was doing the personalized PSAs. We had done some of those last year also, and we did some at the beginning of the summer. We'll continue to do them. You're getting the first responder in their discipline, speaking to the public, like you're moving over for a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, that seems to really get a lot of hits on social media. One of our PIO people she's a social media whiz, and she can tell you how many times it was viewed, how many times it was shared. And that seems to be working for us on the social media platform. It's that personalized sort of message.
Yeah, for sure, Robert. That will get the attention above everything else, right? But don't feel don't feel restricted, right? If we have, if you need them, we have the contacts, all of us probably, right, of the survivors of a strike and surviving family members of a strike, right? And it may not even be in your state, okay, but that's irrelevant, right? So we can help you with that, and we can help you make those connections. So, and anyone, when you're any of our speakers, can do that also, because we know who they are. We know who those folks are. So yeah, great stuff.
Joe, I can add a little bit to that for what we try to do. So just like with the training, you look at the video in chapter 1, the recap of the incident that happened in 1998 on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So that's 25 years old now. And so we try to keep it really fresh, but we also try to add to it, bring in more partners. I also would like to change the face of our Crash Responder Safety Week, the person who's doing it, because I've been doing it the last several years. And so, put in a new face like Nicole out there, because they have different ideas than I do. And so they can also just bring in new ideas and new things that will bring awareness to the program. And so as far as other things that we do that's in writing, our DMS messaging, yes, I mean, they know every year we're putting this out there. Everyone's going to put it out there every week. It's on the calendar. And so that's pretty consistent, as well as the social media posts with our victim impact videos that go out. But we also try to update those and get new ones, because if people see the same thing year after year, it's not new. They're going to scroll through it. So you want to add something that's fresh, recent, maybe in their area, because that just seems to speak louder to those folks.
Great points, Dave. Great points. I'm not seeing anything pop up in the Q&A except a question about this year's theme. It's coming up next, so I guess I'll take this opportunity to go ahead and make that transition. I'm going to turn it over to another huge champion of traffic incident management, one of our consultants, Vishali Shaw, and she's going to take it from here and introduce us to what we're going to be doing this year. So Vishali, you've got it.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm so excited to be on this panel of experts and champions. I wanted to come back from something we covered last webinar, which is fostering collaboration among state level response organizations. And, the folks here from Pennsylvania and Florida and New Jersey and all the other states really understand this. To get that proclamation, to get the mass training and all these other things, you need collaboration. And so we have this list of all of the state level agencies that you can connect with, collaborate with. They, most likely will be very much on board to get the message out collectively. And particularly if you are, someone asked about the proclamation, if you are pursuing a proclamation, this is a great way to make it happen, is to get a partner from each response organization to step up and say, hey, we support a proclamation. And, most of the states have an online form that you complete. So happy to help with that. Next, drum roll. This was introduced last all-state webinar. What theme would we like to proceed with? And there was a resounding concurrence amongst the national committee members, as well as all of the people participating last year. And we are going with the theme, protect those who protect you. That will be the theme for 2023. And with that, we will use the hashtag CRSW It is one that we started in 2021, continued on, and we want to keep using that one just so that we have a common hashtag to use on social media. So we are going to work to update the FHWA CRSW resource toolkit to align with that theme next. And we've shuffled up the day of week themes this year, just again, with the hope of keeping it fresh. The theme this year, first day is always the thematic day, which is protect those who protect you. Then we're going to focus on drivers education, and that's reaching out to the big drivers ed schools as well as through the DMV to make sure that there is not only the presence of slow down, move over and authority or driver removal laws, but also enough time spent. You know, a sentence may not be enough to emphasize that. So it's about trying to update the curriculum and update the content in the driver's ed books to be more inclusive and bigger spotlight on responder safety. Wednesday will be responder training. So if you're in the process of planning and organizing, whether it's a mass training event or a single training event during CRSW, target it on Wednesday. Now, all 5 days of the week are great, but that's where we're going to emphasize the messaging. And then more than just a crash is the Thursday theme. And that's the theme that, you know, while we're calling it Crash Responder Safety Week, it's not just about crashes. It's about anything on the roadway where a responder is out there making the road safer for all road users. And so whether it's a stalled vehicle, debris on the roadway, traffic incident management and focusing attention on TIM and on slowing down and moving over has to do with all types of incidents. And then finally, Friday, we are going to close with the big bang, the theme of slow down, move over. That's the, you know, we had this in the middle of the week, but we felt that we want to close stronger. So we pushed it to the end of the week. So those are the day of week themes. Next. And again, the proclamation, we're going to hit that, you know, over and over again. If you're having trouble, if you're having resistance, reach out to Paul, Jim, and Joe, and we'll try to get you and get the folks that you need to get to put this as a priority. And thank you, Luana. She just put in the 2 links on how to submit a proclamation. And I'm going to stop for a second. And, you know, we wanted to check and see if the first webinar made a difference. If you're a state organization, whether you're law enforcement, fire, EMS, let us know if you're working towards getting that proclamation in your state. Just put in the state, you know, Minnesota, MN, Pennsylvania, PO, just so we get a feel for how many people are already in the process of securing a proclamation. And then the ones that don't enter it, we're going to try to reach out to one-on-one to get you on board. We will bug you. We will hound you. We will kindly try to support you in trying to make this happen this year. So Luana, I think you can hide the vote in a few seconds. I'm wondering, can we get to the next slide? Thank you. And we want to just spend a few seconds to make you aware of where the resources are. These are not exclusive or exhaustive resources, but what the Federal Highway Administration does is they create a flyer for the response community. So this is a flyer that every response association can share with their members to get them to be ready for Crash Responder Safety Week, to send out the tweets, to talk to their local schools, or to, you know, host events at you know, events in and around their neighborhood. We're hoping this year to create a poster to go along with the flyer that may be customizable. We provide language for a customizable press release, for a video message from your executive, and sample tweets. So we're going to be doing all of that again this year. And so Luana, go ahead and share where those resources are. And I think this is the FHWA TIM website, and on the left is the navigation panel. And the third item currently says Crash Responder Safety Week. It tells you what it is. So if there's people that want to learn, feel free to send them to the site to understand what CRSW is, what they could be doing. And then the next tab underneath there is the toolkit. And right now it still has the 2022 data. You can see the day of week themes. links to those marketing collateral we talked about. And then for each day, if you want to click Thursday, for example, it has what the sample tweets are if you're an organization and if you're a responder, and then it has some resources. Now, this is not an exhaustive or inclusive list of resources. There's another great resource, which is on the NOCO website under Crash Responder Safety Week. And that has a lot more of the videos and other things. And there are many other organizations that also offer resources. ERSI, responder safety dot, I don't know if it's net or com, but that is a core resource. And then a lot of national associations like the International Association of Firefighters or others also have resources that are specific to that response community. So back to the presentation. All right, so if there are other assets you think that would be useful for the CRSW toolkit, and I want to thank Dr. Hardin for suggesting a proclamation template. That's something we're going to consider. Let us know, put it in the chat pod if you think that there's another type of template or content that you think would be helpful. And then we wanted to ask if there are assets you're developing, and you saw all of the assets from Sean and from David and for Michael Washburn and others today. If you're developing posters, if you're developing a proclamation, if you're developing a message of some sort, a video, send us a link. And if you don't have a link, send us the actual content. We would love to try to categorize, organize this, and make it available as a resource on the NOCO site for everybody to be able to use, both for inspiration and then just, repeat, recycle, reuse. Don't reinvent the wheel. So please do share what you're going to be doing and the products you developed this year with the community. Next. And with that, those are the two different websites. We've, I think, put them on the chat pod a few times. So we'll go to next. And with that, one other question. We asked this question last time as well. If you're the point person for CRSW at your state level organization, so Todd, Pennsylvania Turnpike, Mike Washburn and Sean Kinney, with the Florida's Turnpike or Florida DOT, share with us your name, your email, and your association name, because we're trying to amass that list so that we can send targeted information. So, for example, once the website is ready, we'll let you know, or when we have the next webinar, we'll let you know. So with that, next, and I think I will be turning it over back to Joe. Thank you guys so much, and I will go off mic.
Thank you, Vishali. Well done. So it's roll call time. And once again, it's raise your hand. I'm looking down the bottom here. I'm not sure, Vishali, if you're seeing anything more than what I'm seeing, but don't be shy, right? Go ahead and let us know, what your plans are. And maybe the plan isn't solid yet. Maybe it's still a fluid process, and we get it, right? It's a lot of work, and there are a lot of moving parts to it. But share with us what you're doing. Give us a few seconds of what your plan is, even though it's not, I wouldn't say early in the game, but it's still early enough that we understand it may change, and maybe you're just sharing your hopes and wishes, right? Because nothing's carved in stone yet for you. But we'd love to hear about it, and love to hear your thoughts and ideas on what you want to do this year. So, Vishali, are you seeing anything pop up there?
I saw Dr. Hardin's hand pop up.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm with Arizona, and I should have my colleague Angela with me here on this meeting. Again, I always appreciate and respect each and every one of you for your participation in this program over the years. Some of the things that we're doing in Arizona, we just met yesterday with our TIM coalition to continue our CRSW planning. We have a TIM coalition that's scheduled for September 20. It's got a mixed goal in it. One goal is obviously to inform the providers on TIM and get their suggestions. But also, I think one of the goals is to try to find ways how we can take the synergy from that September 20 summit and play it in with the Crash Responder Week observance. We will be getting our governor's proclamation submitted again this year. We're finalizing some data on how many trainings we did and how many people were trained in 2022 to add that to that proclamation language. What we started doing at our TIM Coalition is we started including our lead agencies, public information officers in our meetings, both to help us identify ways and get their support and production in promoting TIM statewide and year round, but also specifically how we can promote the summit and promote CRSW activities. Other than that, I started to provide the email address for Luz Rubio with Maricopa ADOT, DOT. She's the one that you can contact about who our state TIM coordinators are for their emails. So I'll leave it at that. Angela, do you have anything you want to add? Is she still there?
I doubt that you scared her off.
Well, I know that the Bureau of EMS and Trauma System within our Department of Health Services that I work for, we make TIM a high priority year round, and we definitely make this an effort during CRSW. So I encourage you folks to reach out to your EMS and trauma system agencies to get their involvement in CRSW. They have a world of resources. They have national contacts, state contacts, and they will be a world of benefit to reach out to your individual EMS and trauma state agencies for that.
Yeah,
that's all
great.
I have to add. Thank you.
Oh, great points, David. And they also have an extra canister of ammo also to carry with them, and that is the National Roadway Safety Strategy and Post-Crash Care for EMS. So packs more punch, when you bring that topic up. And you're spot on. I spent some time out west with all the state medical directors from across the nation, and they all kind of sat up in their chairs, when I started talking about the Crash Responder Safety Week and all the effort that's put into it, and they started taking notes. So they understand the impact, right? Because a lot of them are medics, paramedics, or trauma surgeons, and they see the aftermath, right? So it really struck home for them. So I don't think you'd have any trouble getting any support from maybe even your state medical directors.
Oh, she's in our department. I'd also recommend applying TIM as a post-crash activity, but when it pertains to the federal BIL law as far as their strategic funding for highway safety. So if you can plug in TIM as a way to improve post-crash events, and also as part of the pre-crash, but as far as after the crash occurs, to keep your responders safe after the crash is applied, post-crash category to help get funding for your TIM efforts would be a good way to plug it in with your highway safety office.
Yeah, great point. That for way too many years, a lot of the agencies I was associated with ran on the philosophy of nothing happens until something happens, and then everything happens, right? And we don't want to exercise that anymore. We want to be proactive, and this is one of the huge pieces of being proactive with TIM, and it gives us our week to really shine in the spotlight. Great comments, Dave. Appreciate it. Anybody else? I saw some comments in the chat pod when we were talking about getting messages out and who to use or how to use them, and it really kind of struck home for me that I saw the comments running thread there that try to reach out to some of your hometown sports heroes, right? Whether you're, you know, a big league town or a college town, which some college towns are pretty big league towns, right? You know, and see, you know, if you can get, you know, someone from there, the head coach, or, you know, someone who's recognizable, and that the younger generation and even us older folks, you know, will take heed to their message, right? So there's, you know, other ways and other opportunities, right? To just reach out, step out of the box, and see what we can come up with.
All right. Shall we? Oh, Joe, you're muted. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, neither am I. Am I back?
You are.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, I was talking to myself, but I do that a lot. So it's time to move to the upcoming planning webinars, right? And August 9th at 3, and Wednesday sometime in September, because the poll just covered it. Just kidding.
September 13th,
September
second
13th.
Wednesday of each month at 3 p.m.
Right.
Eastern time.
Yep, there you go. There you go. And those are the topics we'll be discussing. And anyone have anything else? We're just about out of time. We got a couple minutes.
Yeah, so if you feel like you are up for the challenge of sharing your changeable message sign, DMV messaging, or driver education activities as a part of CRSW and want to be in the spotlight, you know, you can have 5 minutes, you could have 10 minutes. Let us know, put your name and your email in this answer, and we'll reach out to you, and you guys will be the ones sharing your expertise next month. Likewise, if you've got a strong social media plan, something written down on a piece of paper, could be a page, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, it could be 5 pages. Let us know. Same thing with web presence and newsletters or press releases that you do that are pretty unique or different. We would love to feature you. One of the things, you know, we didn't push the roll call the first and this webinar because honestly, a lot of the states are still putting their plans together. But now that you guys have had 2 months, you know, we're going to meet again in August. We really do want to hear from at least, you know, 10 of you 50 states, if not all 50. And then we can't do all 50 on every webinar, but we'd love to have you guys sign up and say, hey, count me in for a 2-minute spot, count me in for a 5-minute spot. And I've got, you know, a slide or 2 that shows all the changeable message signs that we're going to do. And particularly for the states that have like expanded their laws to include new response communities, as well as even stalled vehicles with their flashers on, let us know. How are you changing your changeable message sign content to reflect that? So I don't know if we've gotten answers because we can't quite see it, but please do enter if you you know, think that your agency is going to be ready to present. And what we're going to also try to do, Luana, I'm going to see if I can borrow. I don't know if you saw every state that presented today had a little table that said, yes, we're doing this. Yes, we're doing that. And no, we're not doing this. We would love for your organization to complete something like that and let us know. So you'll hear more about that request at the next webinar, or perhaps through the FHWA TIM newsletter. So would love to get your input. Thank you for closing the poll. And with that, back to Joe. I think we are on the mark. Final slide.
Hey, Vashalia.
Yes, David.
Did I miss it? Or did you already announce what the theme is for this year's CRSW?
You missed it, but I will share it again. The theme is protect those who protect you. That is the theme, all caps. Protect those who protect you for 2023. It is borrowed from a campaign that NHTSA did very lightly in 2019-2020. It resonated really strongly with the National TIM Committee, as well as with the participants of the first webinar. We had about 150 people participate. And with that theme will be the hashtag CRSW.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, just to close it out, just thanks to our Thanks to our presenters, great information. Thank you, Vishali, for keeping an eye on things and assisting. And thanks to NOCO for all you do for us. So everyone, thank you for all you do out there. Please stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you on the next call. So thanks again, everybody.